Hi guys, this is Max from makeitconscious.com. Hope you're doing well today. Now in this video I'm going to be running through a metaphor that has come into my mind for the process of individuation and the 7 habits that I discuss in my videos. Now whilst the process to individuation is described as a natural process, and it's absolutely true, what I believe is that there are actions a person can take that will move a person in that direction, and it's a way of life essentially, and that is a way of life that is beneficial because it's conducive to making the unconscious conscious, which brings a person to a state of wholeness, a beautiful state of mind, and more peace and joy and all those wonderful things that ultimately is what we all want, right? So as a way to help us remember these 7 habits and illustrate how they work and the process more generally, I've concocted this metaphor of a ship, the ocean, and a desert island. Most people are like a ship lost at sea. Right? The ship represents the ego. This is our sense of self. Life is okay on the ship. We get by, we survive, but it's limited and it's bound by the ocean outside of it. The ocean represents the external world. When we're lost at sea, some days are going to be good, some days are going to be terrifying, some days are going to be tragic. People are going to die, we're going to lose people, there's going to be illness, there's going to be storms, there's going to be severe weather which cast our ship in various directions. And so we live this life lost at sea on this boat. It's very limited, and we are bound by the conditions outside of the ship. We are just this little ego, this sense of me, and there is this vast ocean around us that represents the external world. And by and large, the external world is what is impacting our day-to-day experience, our mental states. So we have good days, we have tough days. By and large, though, we're not really in the driver's seat. Now, we are aware, though, that there is a paradise desert island. We don't know where it is at this stage. We just know it exists. We have a sense that it exists. We have a sense that there could be something out there that is far preferable to where we are now. In some ways, this desert island represents freedom. It's a place that we imagine we can go and be free, both mentally and also in our external world, where essentially we're in control, we're in the driver's seat. And so the desert island represents what we call the self in Jungian psychology, the self with a capital S. So this really represents our full maturity, our full potential as human beings. So here we are on this ship in the middle of a temperamental ocean. We have 7 key resources that will allow us to move from where we are to the island where we intend to be. The first is the map, absolutely critical. This is habit 1, take responsibility for your mind. The map tells us where we need to go. It tells us that there is such a place as the island, and that in order to do there, we need to follow the instructions in the map. The map is not the island, the map is not the territory, but it represents the territory and gives us a model to work from in the meantime. The second asset we have at our disposal are the ship's sails. This is habit 2, cultivate wholesome intentions. The sails really determine the direction we go in, and even though we're going to encounter different weather conditions and some will be very challenging, we use the sails to navigate these situations and make sure that we are moving in the right direction. So the sails aren't really something we use actively, but they are a device that will carry us in the right direction. The third asset on this ship is the crew, right? You can't go anywhere on a ship, at least not intentionally, without a crew. And so the crew represents skillful communication, habit 3. This is our ability to engage with the world around us and each other, and both condition the world to respond to us in a favourable way, and at the same time condition our own minds through our speech to engage with the world and relate to the world in a wholesome and productive way. So this is represented by the crew. There are many people in this crew. They all need to engage with each other. Now, the fourth asset on this ship is the cargo. The cargo represents something of value. This is something we can trade with, both on the ship and also when we eventually land at the island. We have this product of value. At the same time, we need the cargo to sustain the crew and to keep everything working. Without the cargo, there's nothing to eat, and then nothing works. And so this, of course, represents habit 4, which is contribute your unique and specific value. Unless we are contributing value, we're not playing our role, we're not doing our part in keeping existence going. And so in the long term, we're not actually going to be able to sustain ourselves either. So we need this cargo to sustain our journey. Now, the 5th asset on board this ship is the crew's propensity to work. It's their working day. It's the energy they put in to keeping the ship going, to moving it in the right direction. And this breaks down further into the 3 facets of habit 5, which is to manage your state. So first of all, the crew are going to be proactive. They're going to be looking for issues in the ship, like little dents here and there, or little holes that maybe have the potential to turn into huge cracks if they don't repair them. So this is when the crew is proactive in fixing the ship. Secondly, the crew is of course going to be responsive to whatever's arising, whatever conditions the ship faces, whatever conflicts that might occur on the ship. The crew are going to be responding to those in a skillful way. And thirdly here, the crew is going to be constructive. They're going to have to do things that make sure the ship is at least a pleasant environment to live in on the journey. And they're going to need to do things like get a system going, like make sure meals are cooked every day, not just doing things at random times, but actually imposing a bit of structure on their own workday and their own lives so they can operate in a efficient and systematic way. The 6th asset on board this ship is the Watchman, who sits atop the crow's nest. So the Watchman, or the lookout, sits atop the crow's nest, taking a good wide view of things, and he is practicing present moment awareness. This is habit 6. This is mindfulness all day, every day. So he's looking for what's coming. He's recognizing what the conditions are. He's experiencing that with bare attention. He is using his raw, direct experience to know what is happening. The lookout is also applying clear comprehension. He's recognizing the conditions and understanding what they mean. So he knows, for example, what the weather's likely to do. And from there on in, the whole ship can make decisions based on that. Now, the 7th asset aboard this ship, if you haven't already guessed, it's a really important one. It is the ship's captain. Without a captain, all these other assets on board this ship aren't going to do too well on their own, at least unless somebody steps up and takes that role, somebody with experience, somebody who understands the big picture, and somebody who can unify the remaining 6 assets on board this ship towards a common intention. So this is the captain, and this is habit 7, meditate daily. And this is absolutely vital, just like all of the habits, for really delivering the goal at the end of the day of moving this ship towards the self, individuation, which is the desert island. And so the whole process is a bit like Jung's idea of circumambulation. This ship is, rather than just moving aimlessly around in the ocean or even being just cast by the conditions out in the sea, it is circumambulating the desert island. It is moving closer and closer to it over time. It is encountering new challenges, new conditions. It's working better together as a unit, and eventually it will arrive at the desert island. Now, when it arrives at the island, it's a vastly different experience. It doesn't mean that suddenly all of their problems are gone. Okay, so there's still a crew, they still have to coordinate and get on well. There is cargo, and now they've delivered the cargo to the island. But now their relationship with the cargo becomes a bit different. They use the cargo to set up a colony, to establish themselves, to expand the value they're able to offer. And so everything just expands, and rather than being now bound by the ocean, they're working from the inside out. They're living with a lot more freedom, and they're living the kind of life that they not only want to live, but the kind of life that they are meant to live, really, by being true to themselves and their nature. This isn't the end of the journey. This is, if anything, a new beginning. They've arrived at the island. At this point, the map is of limited use. The map becomes the territory. And at this point, they're living from the inside out. They're no longer bound by the conditions of the external ocean. They may occasionally get back in a boat or two and go for a ride, but they can always come back to that place of inner security, inner freedom, and live the kind of life they choose to live, complete freedom. So there's just a little story, a little metaphor from me. I stretched that metaphor quite far, but the more I thought about it, the more it just seemed to work. And I think it's a nice way to encapsulate the 7 habits, what they each are, and the need for each of them. And that's another thing, because what you can do is you can imagine what would happen to the boat if I didn't have any single one of those particular habits. We would need every one of those assets on the boat in order to function correctly. If there's no captain, for example, if there's nobody unifying the remaining assets, then the ship is not going to go in a meaningful or sustainable direction towards the island. Likewise, if we didn't have any sails, it doesn't matter how good the crew is or how hard they work, or even how reliable the map is, or any of that, because without the sails we can't move the ship in the intended direction. It's just not going to happen. So it also works the other way. You can use this metaphor to sort of understand what happens to the mind if we leave out any particular habit, i.e. any particular one of the assets on the ship. So that's all for me today, guys. I hope that was useful. I shall chat to you next time.